Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I'm looking forward to the next couple of months and getting back into the swing of things with this podcast. I want to thank you guys, the listeners, for all of the support that you've given my podcast over the years. It's hard to believe that I started this in February of 2015. It's been a great journey, and I look forward to getting more information to you guys. I want to thank the sponsors of this podcast. I want to thank GoHunt.com and remind you guys that the Black Friday sale actually is starting early on November 12th. There's tons of great gear that's 60% off at the Go Hunt Gear Shop. Go to GoHunt.com. Also, remember, with this Black Friday sale, when you sign up for Insider, you're going to get $100 off to spend at the Go Hunt Gear Shop. That's just when you sign up for Insider. If you want the Explorer, you get $50 to spend in the Go Hunt Gear Shop. Go to GoHunt.com. Use the J. Scott promo code. Guys, I want to thank Go Hunt for their sponsorship. I want to thank you guys for supporting Go Hunt. They've been a loyal supporter of mine from the beginning, so go check them out. I also want to thank KUIU.com. KUIU is the ultralight hunting gear that I've been wearing since 2010. Great ultralight hunting gear. They've got 3 camo patterns from the Velo to the Verde to the Vias. They've got packs. They've got all sorts of great lightweight gear. Go to KUIU.com to order. It's a direct-to-consumer website. You can go to KUIU.com to order the gear there. I also want to thank Phonescope.com. Use the JScott23 promo code for a 10% discount. Phonescope is the digiscoping device that I use on my iPhone to capture some of the videos and photos that you see on my Instagram account. And then I'd also like to thank Lathrop & Sons and remind you that they're doing a Mountain Hunter boot giveaway and a custom Synergy footbed giveaway. All you have to do to enter is go to lathropsons.com, click on the link there to enter into the giveaway, and you can be entered into that drawing. Give James and Steven a call if you want to discuss and talk to them about their 3 boots. They basically have the Encompass, the Mountain Hunter, and the Elite boot, plus their custom Synergy footbeds. I've been wearing them now for over a year and just absolutely love their boots. There's 2 ways to get hold of them: boots at lathropsons.com, or you can call them directly. Call James, call Steven directly. They're 2 brothers. 618-544-8782. Guys, let's get right to these episodes. If you'd like to send me a message, you can go to my Instagram account, which is at jscottoutdoors. You can send me an email, jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. God bless, and thanks for your support.
Cody, I want to ask you, kind of wrapping up here, to give me some glassing tips, some fundamental glassing tips, maybe for some of the people out there that are listening that don't have a ton of experience, and maybe even to the guys out there that are experts and professional guides. Can you go through a few fundamental tips for glassing,
absolutely.
kind of groundwork?
For sure. First and foremost, I think you've heard us talk about making the transition from, tripod glassing versus not. But, regardless of what you're glassing from or what your platform is, one of the biggest things, I see people moving around a lot. It's almost like they're bored or they're, and there's a time to move around. If you know a piece of country really, really good and you know where the animals should or shouldn't be, I get it. Power glassing or moving at a rapid pace and looking at different places, there's a time and a place for that. Generally speaking, I think the mistake that people make is using the field of view for a given spot. And what I mean by that is that, binoculars, let's just take a 10 power binocular. Generally speaking, they have a 330 to, 350 or 60 foot field of view. And when I'm looking at a piece of country, I think people have a tendency to look at the center of the field of view, and then they move the binocular to the next field of view. And I think the number one thing to tell people is that if you will slow down a little bit and you will let your eyes work the entire field of view and look for those colors and those shapes and the flick of an ear or something that just doesn't look right. But if you will use the entire field of view, and some people call it gridding, some people, gridding can be broken up into different things, and we'll get into that another day. But, Jay, I'm just talking about letting your eyes wander within the entire field of view that you're looking at. And once you've done that, then move it over to to overlap, and then let your eyes wander. I think that's the number one thing that people don't do with their binoculars that they should. They don't use the full field of view for, the reason that it's nice to have a full field of view. They don't let their eyes wander within it. That would be my biggest piece of advice.
Let me ask you a quick question in regards to that, just so I understand you completely and the listeners do. What you're saying is you want a glass in the center of your binoculars and really glass what I would call in the heart of the binocular. But before you move your binocular, you want to be in a relaxed position that allows your eyes to quote-unquote swim or kind of move around within the entire field of view. So you're not recommending people swim their eyes right away. You're saying, focus, really hone in on the center and where you're looking, but then kind of relax and allow movement to be picked up in the peripheral all around the whole edge, top to bottom,
Absolutely.
side to side of the binocular.
Yep.
Okay.
Because what happens, Jay, is that if you will take, the natural tendency is for us to look into the center of the tube, right? Well, if all you're doing is looking at the center of the tube and you have a field of view, let's just say at 1,000 yards, it's 350 feet, and you go to overlap between you and the next one and all you're looking at is the center, well, I mean, now you've got between, center to center, you've got, 350 feet in between those two, and you're only covering the middle, the middle part of that. You've done some overlaps, and I think you're missing some dirt. And so I think it's important literally for people to slow down and let their eyes wander, or I like your term, swim. Take in all the area, and then once you feel like you've looked it over pretty good, then move it over. And you can do this both hand holding and from a tripod. But the fact of it is that I think that's when people start to realize how much easier it is from a tripod.
One more question in regards to that. When you are scanning a hillside, whether it be off of a tripod, which we highly recommend, or hand holding, in a normal fashion, if you're glassing across a ridge, you're on one ridge glassing across, are you typically sweeping or, going left to right or right to left? As you say, you're talking about glassing in the center of your binocular and then let your eyes swim and then move it over so you're not missing anything. From a logistics standpoint, are you typically sweeping left to right, right to left, or are you typically sweeping up and down and up, up and down, down and up?
That's a fairly common question, and I would tell you that the first thing I tell people is on a general rule, I'm always going left to right, right to left. And then I typically speaking, I start at the tops and work my way down. But again, a lot of times I'll let the terrain dictate that. And I think, Jay, the easiest way to kind of tell this is that, if you're looking at a pretty open hillside, the left and right tends to work very, a lot better. But a lot of times, like if I'm looking in across a canyon and there's any pines or, big vertical trees in it, it's kind of funny because a lot of times my eyes will, it just kind of works that, when I go up and down through it, I seem to pick up more than if I were going right to left. And again, these kind of become personal things, but, I tend to let the terrain dictate, and only until someone really starts spending time doing that do they really start to feel like, gosh, here I am 1,000 yards away, but yet my binoculars, it kind of is difficult to follow the terrain, and then you'll kind of find yourself following certain patterns within the trees, or like I said, pines or bushes. And anytime I'm dealing with big pines, I'm almost always going, up and down. And when I'm in the brush or I'm typically going right to left.
Wouldn't you agree too, if you're up on a point and let's say that like there's timber on your left, timber on your right, and maybe there's kind of a long meadow or chaining that like goes away from you, that would be a scenario where maybe you're basically looking up and down that, whether you're going left or right or you're going up and down, you're going to cover that opening first. Or if you're
exactly,
glassing somewhere where there's, thick on all sides, but you have kind of a vertical avalanche chute or something, it would be kind of crazy for you to make little sweeps left and right, whereas you could either start at the bottom and just pan up or start at the top, which I would typically start at the top and just take one sweep down, and then you've basically covered everything in that avalanche chute the most efficient way. And then if you want to go back, you can kind of go back and start sliding left or right. But that would be a case like an avalanche chute or something where it's a vertical opening, and you'd want to cover it as quickly as possible on the initial pass. I would start at the top and just pan to the bottom.
Right. Jay, it's funny too, and I think we've talked about this before, but one of my favorite glassing spots, there's just this horrendously long ridge that literally goes from top to bottom, and it, from my high on my right, it goes at about a 45-degree angle and goes all the way down, to my bottom left. And this is why the importance of, even if you're not using a tripod again, but it becomes so much easier when you use a tripod and a head. I almost, the way that the trees are in this particular hill is, or it's not really a hill, it's a mountain, but the way that the trees are in the vertical and the way that ridge comes down, I almost literally stair step it. Like I'll put a field of view up and I'll come over a little bit and drop down and then go left a little bit and then drop down and then go left a little bit. So you literally start, and the whole time I'm doing that, the terrain is dictating how far I move out left, and then I drop down, and I move out left, and I drop down. And so, again, I'm letting the terrain dictate how my eyes flow through that, because you can imagine if you were just trying to go left and right, if I went all the way left, I'd be, somewhere on a completely different ridge. And so I just think for tracking and knowing where pockets of deer are, I typically try to pick the terrain out, and I like I said, I kind of stair step that particular ridge, and then, other times I'm moving vertical because the trees are vertical, and other times I'm moving left and right because that's the way the brush kind of is. So I hope that helps. It makes a lot of sense, and to me anyway, and I'd like to say that I'm fairly successful at finding game. So I hope that makes sense to our listeners.
Yeah, for sure. Any other tips that you want to leave them with?
Yeah, Jay, there's, the one thing I will tell people, this is a great one, and this is more speaking about the optics themselves. I think it's pretty amazing of how many people that you end up talking to that don't set their diopter, and they use the main center focus, but they've never set the diopter to their individual eyes. And sometimes I would tell people that they really need to read the manual for their binoculars, and they need to understand the focusing system, because they may be causing themselves a lot of eye strain that they're not really paying attention to, and that really is completely and totally unnecessary. So I think that's another, as far as the equipment goes, I just tell people, please read the manuals, and if you don't know how to do it, call me and I'll walk you through it. But a lot of people set themselves up for failure right out of the box because they're not even reading the how to focus their binoculars, and it's like anything else. We always want to get to the prize first, but I've had people literally not even know that there's a diopter setting that helps you focus. In most cases, it's your right eye, and there's a lot of people that don't know that focus is even there.
That's very important. Cody, I know you've got to get back with customers and what have you. I know you have a full slate of helping customers and what have you. I want to give you a chance to let the listeners know how they can reach out to you by phone and by email. And even more than that, I want to give you a chance to let the customers know how important it is that, each one is like family and you're going to treat each one important, and that, especially the J. Scott Outdoors podcast listeners, you're going to take care of them. Talk a little bit about that and then let us know exactly how we can get a hold of you. Okay, Cody, I know your time is valuable and I know you've got other customers to handle. I know you were working with some this morning. I want to give you a chance to let the listeners know how they can reach out to you either by phone or by email, and how important their business is to you.
Yeah, Jay, the three ways you can get a hold of me are this: optics@gohunt.com, or you can get me at Cody@gohunt.com, and then by phone it's 702-847-8747, and hit extension 2, and that'll take you directly to me. Again, that's 702-847-8747, extension 2. Jay, you know me. We go way back. You know how I take care of my people. You know how I take care of my customers. I try to develop relationships, and not just relationships, friendships with people. I try to relate to people. I try to understand what their needs are, and I literally give them the absolute truth when it comes to buying. I will make sure that people know the things they need to have. I will tell people things they don't need to have. I'm just trying to treat people like they want to be treated, and that's be told the truth, the best information, and able to help them again get out in the field and find game. And that's really what we're trying to do here is set ourselves apart and give people the best expert advice and that we possibly can.
Well, there you have it.